Welcome, everybody. We are back with another great episode of the Popcorn Watchlist podcast. I am your host, Xavier. Once again, I am joined by what I call the usual suspects. I got the boys in town. Got Anthony over here to my left.
How's it going?
Over here, right on the other end of the couch, is Danny.
I got my seat back.
That's right, which
Nice.
means Zach is way out there in the corner. Say hi, Zach.
Hi. I'm back here in my usual
We
seat.
put baby in the corner.
He's never seen that movie.
I'm on timeout over here in my little corner.
Exactly. But yes, so we are excited because this episode, we're going to get to talk about the full package that Amazon gave us. See what I did there? With all episodes of the Rings of Power out. So we're going to kind of go a quick overview, what our thoughts were, what we liked, what we want to see more of, and all those goodies. But let's bring back very quickly because we have had a couple weeks to just kind of check out a lot of things out. Let's do a rundown of some recently watched. Let's start off with Anthony.
Oh,
Surprise.
all right. I'll just rattle off a few things because I know it's been a couple of weeks. The usual suspects, the TV shows we've been watching, Andor, Hot D,
He's trying.
Hot Dragon, baby.
I really want that to somehow
It's a
go
thing.
off.
People
make
call
it a
it
thing.
People call it Hot D on
No,
the internet.
they call it House of Dragons, and HBO is out here trying to correct them and say
Hot
it's
Dragon.
the House of the Dragon, and they go, yeah, House of Dragons. But no,
it's
Hot D.
D.
It's that Hot D.
Rings of Power, and She-Hulk, and what was another one? There was another one.
Rings of
that was
Power,
like that.
She-Hulk, Andor.
Those are the four main ones.
I was gonna say something
might
about Better
be.
Call Saul, but no, that's already done.
That's done.
That's done.
That might be it. I think there was something else, but I'm probably forgetting. Movies, though, I don't know if I mentioned this because I don't remember last time we did this, but I did watch Avatar, the re-release.
You did mention that.
Okay,
Yep.
so I don't.
It's Purdy.
Scrub that.
Betty Purdy.
I did see Don't Worry, Darling. Did I mention that last time or weeks ago?
No, you mentioned the funny story, everybody. He mentioned that in person. I think when we
in
went to go watch
person.
something else.
Got it. So I did see Don't Worry, Darling. It was pretty good. It wasn't terrible like some of the scores may suggest on Rotten Tomatoes or what people said after all the drama before it came out. It was okay. It was pretty good. It felt like a pretty good episode, not a bad one, but a pretty good episode of Black Mirror, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to say too much.
Mhm.
But the acting was very good.
All right, that's
but-
a testament to the actors as well as a little bit, I guess, to Olivia Wilde.
Yeah,
having
the
to direct
director. Yeah,
everybody.
she got goods out of her actors, but the story is a little weird. I won't say anymore.
Yeah, don't
I
say
don't want to
anymore.
run anything, but yeah, it was one of those where after you watch it, you're like, yeah, it was pretty good, and I thought about it more. I was like, wait a minute, there's a lot of plot holes here, but that's why I went from like good to just like okay.
All right,
Wasn't a bad movie, but it's pretty good.
that's fair. All right, cool.
And
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you're gonna mention one that we saw a few weeks ago, but
Which one was that actually?
not Amber Lamps.
No,
Amsterdam.
Again, you guys saw
Amsterdam. We saw
Amsterdam.
Damber Lamps, Steez. Amsterdam's. So yes, we saw Amsterdam. That one was
Yeah.
really cool. I
That
liked
was
it a lot.
fun. Again, another one that got mixed reviews.
Which I don't
you know.
understand. I mean, I think it's mixed reviews, but I think people are really nitpicking on like maybe one or two particular things. But I think they forget the context of certain scenes when they realize, there's one character that like something will happen and you go, wait, what? And then they kind of like, oh, that was imagination, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. But those scenes, they're very few and far between. But I guess they're off-putting to some people. I understood the whole
Yeah.
conceit of what it was, and chemistry was really good
Yeah.
between
The three main leads.
the three main leads and even some of the side characters
Right.
too. Michael Shannon and Michael Myers are awesome. Rami Malek, again, just stellar work. Everybody got good screen time, surprisingly, right?
Yeah. I was afraid when they showed, all the actors in this movie. I was like, wow, this movie is pretty stacked. That, it's going to be the three main actors and then everybody else would be like a little bit scattered. It would kind of be like a bunch of cameos. But no, there was a good amount. I'd say aside from the three main characters, there's probably like 5 or 6 other side characters that got a substantial amount of screen time.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're talking Chris Rock, Zoe Saldana, Robert De Niro, Anya Taylor-Joy, Rami Malek, Michael Shannon, Michael Myers, both Michaels. So the Michael Shannon and Michael Myers. That's already 7, and there's still like 1 or 2 other people that I haven't mentioned.
Taylor Swift was in it.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
pretty
there's
stacked.
a lot of people, and then you have the 3 main leads. And Timothy Oliphant, like
Timothy Oliphant, Christian Bale,
John David Washington, and
Margot
Robbie.
Robbie's.
Great, yeah, it was awesome. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it was fun. I recommend it.
yeah, I do too.
If you've enjoyed any of David O. Russell's other movies, you'll probably like this one. It has similar flavor.
Yeah, I would say that we're kind of in the spooky season, but this is kind of a fun, kind of offbeat period piece. So Zach loves period pieces.
Fun caper.
Yeah, it's a fun caper. I recommend it. With that being said,
That's about it.
yeah.
Shows and movies that I've watched the past couple of weeks.
excellent. Let's throw it over quickly to
Next.
Zach.
All right, I'm gonna keep this one brief.
Good.
I did watch some movies, but I'm gonna save them
Right.
for another episode.
All right.
And probably not the next one because that's gonna be a more special episode, but the one after, I guess.
Ooh,
So
dropping hints. I like
I'm just gonna say that I watched the She-Hulk finale, which
Oof.
was
I'll go on rec. I will.
it was meta. It was really meta.
I will-
Yes, it was.
It was
I will be-
extremely
That's a
meta.
correct statement.
For just, I'll
Extremely.
leave this very blank. We can get into this in a special episode if the listeners and viewers want to. I will die on that hill and say I, with its faults, enjoyed it. Even with its faults, I found it enjoyable.
Good for you.
It was a bit-
Exactly. Good. Exactly.
No,
Good for
it
me.
is
And
good
I'm
for you.
not gonna like judge anybody who didn't like it. I was like, hey,
me
that's
neither.
fine.
I mean, if you liked it,
If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, that's
But-
fair too.
because
Too many times you get people in fandoms that just decide to, oh, your tastes are garbage. Let's burn you at the stake, pitchfork you to death.
Ouch.
Nah, chill out.
yeah, a lot of people on the internet were saying like, "Oh, it was a garbage episode. Don't watch it." But
Yeah, they probably didn't.
But-
That's the problem.
I really like that middle part.
Yes, yes. That's all you have to say. The middle
Then
part.
I just- we're just gonna say
it
that-
was like 7 minutes into the episode. I think it was like the rest of the episode.
Yeah, that was like a good 80% of the episode.
Yeah.
70%, 80%
Yeah.
of the episode.
Just read the comics.
I just
Like,
want to
if,
say that
if you read any She-Hulk comics, this is par for the course. That's all I have to say.
Right, but
Go
I
ahead.
feel like that lends itself more in the comics than
Yeah.
it does like
In
the
live
way they
action.
did it.
yeah, I mean they went full on like kind of like Deadpool-esque on that.
Well,
No,
that's where
they went-
Deadpool
they went
got it.
Well, like-
further. I
well,
think
they went
even
further
further.
they
because
went beyond.
they
Okay,
went they went further because
Yeah.
in the comics she's done that. Like she's more fourth wall breaking than even Deadpool. To the point where like she'll read or like call out the editors and just be like, what? He's like, where's my fan mail? Like stuff like that. Like it's very silly.
they should be in a movie together.
They probably that would
probably
be
will be. I'm
hilarious.
I'm sure they
but
will, and it will be an eighth wall break because they'll be like, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
That would also be there legal ramifications for being a mercenary, but sure. That's fun. So you saw She-Hulk.
Yeah, finished She-Hulk, and I've started rewatching because I didn't really get too far into it. But I'm rewatching again and then gonna finish off, of course, the original Star Trek series,
Hmm.
the 1966 Star Trek.
Yeah, Paramount Plus?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I recently got Paramount Plus, maybe a couple weeks ago. Kind of started adding things to my watch list on there.
Talk to me when you watch The Trouble with Tribbles.
The Trouble with Tribbles, is
Yeah.
that
That is an episode.
season 1, season 2?
I don't remember which season, but it is definitely one of the more famous episodes.
All right, that
fun.
one I'm gonna look out for. The Trouble with Tribbles.
Have fun. That's all I have to say.
And then I think, and then of course we finished, or I finished Lord of the Rings, of course.
Yeah,
Rings
which
of
we'll be
Power.
talking about soon.
Well,
Excellent.
I hope you did.
Yeah, of course, of course.
If not, get out. No. All right. Speaking of finally going into people who probably should have gotten out, Danny, talk to us
What?
about your recently watched. It's a fun one.
Well, you guys were talking about Michael Myers earlier.
Yep.
So I saw Michael Myers.
No.
Not.
This is Mike Myers.
Yeah.
That's
Not
awesome.
Randy.
Oh, Baby Driver.
Yeah. I saw Halloween Ends, and I actually saw. Last week I went on a trip and I downloaded Halloween and Halloween Kills in preparation of watching Halloween Ends
Okay.
on Peacock. I saw it at home.
Halloween Kills came out last year or 2 years ago.
Last year.
Last
Okay.
year.
So these two came out really quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
if
the
they
other one
filmed
came
it-
out 2018.
Yeah, I don't know if they filmed it back to back, but it seemed like they did it very quickly.
That's very telling.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
I don't want to get
Yeah,
into
I've heard.
spoilers in case you guys want to watch it,
Excuse me.
Does Halloween end? Is that a spoiler?
Um, it's in the title, so Halloween does end. Halloween ends.
Okay.
Cool. So November
But-
1st
Yeah.
happens.
Nice.
Just don't watch the trailer. If you saw the trailer already, just
Forget it.
forget the trailer.
Wow.
Man.
Just go in thinking you don't know anything about this movie.
Okay. There we go.
That's all I'll say.
Simple.
There's some good moments in it. There's some good
And
you
then
know
dead.
kills in it. There's some good Jamie Lee Curtis is great as Laurie.
Of course.
How was the candy?
I don't think there was candy.
Wow, it's so strange.
Yeah.
That's why it
Never
has low
candy.
scores.
That's why never
Um,
candy in these movies.
But yeah, just go for the ride.
All right. Excellent.
Because you can watch it both either in theaters or on Peacock too, right?
I saw all three in Peacock.
Yep. That's
Thanks,
them.
NBC
Well,
That's
Universal.
their
I saw-
mistake.
The first one I saw, like the first Halloween from this trilogy, I saw in theaters when it came out, but Kills and Ends I saw for the first time in Peacock.
All right, cool. So you can catch if you want your fix of a slasher films and finally cap out a trilogy. Go ahead and watch the Halloween reboot, second reboot. I don't know, there's a whole lot going on there. Anyway,
But reboot continuation.
Trilogy
Trilogy,
reboot? Of
rebooted
a
trilogy?
reboot?
Was it because they rebooted it before, right?
Before.
The Rob
Yeah.
Zombie one.
Yeah.
yes,
When did that come out? 2000.
that's why I'm saying it's like
was
the
like
10 or
second
something like that?
reboot.
Yeah, it wasn't like 10 years
But-
ago, 10, 15
Something
years
like
ago.
Apparently they said that this trilogy is after the first original movie.
Correct.
Like there's no two.
H2O
or,
doesn't exist. in
Yeah,
this.
nothing exists. Just the first one.
Halloween water.
sucks. Anyway, anyway,
Halloween water.
Halloween water.
Be
You know
afraid.
we all love those names.
H2O.
That's when you think
Fantastic.
That's because it came out 20 years later, right?
Hollow water.
Yeah.
It's like the 5-0 destination.
5-0.
That one's always the best.
Yep. Like Fast and Furious. Yeah.
No, that would have been awesome.
But they didn't because
They're
they're
not smart.
dumb. Anyway, speaking of not dumb and dumb, so very quickly, I just had a couple quick of what I had in terms of my recently watched. Like a lot of you guys, obviously, like the big like nerdy stuff out right now, the fantasy and the Marvel stuff. But I also saw a premiere. I kind of went on a bit of a Apple TV Plus rabbit hole. I actually watched this. I guess I would call it like sort of like a crime drama. It's kind of sort of crime drama, but also like kind of feel good. It's with Charlie Hunnam. It's on Apple TV Plus called Shantaram. It's based
Oh.
off a book. First 3 episodes are up live. It takes a little bit to build up, but there are certain moments that just a lot of great character development between some of the main players. But by the end of the 3rd episode, it's it really sets itself as to what's going on in basically, I think it's 1982 Bombay, India. But I didn't know until like into the first or I think it was 2nd episode that famed genre actor Alexander Siddig is in it. He was in Game of you guys who watched Game of Thrones, the head of House Dorne. He was
Okay.
also Dr. Julian Bashir in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Zach hasn't gotten there yet, unfortunately. That's probably my favorite out of all the Star Treks, but that's a different story. Anyway, show's good. I recommend it. First 3 episodes are up live, so you can kind of get a taste and see if you like it. And then I don't know if I mentioned it before, just like what Anthony earlier, but I got to watch The Greatest Beer Run Ever.
Ooh, I need to check that
with Zac Efron,
And that's also on Apple.
also on Apple.
Okay.
Really good movie. It's got him. It's got Russell Crowe. It's about a dude in that lives in New York that was sort of in the Navy in the early '60s, but then he did his service term, and now he's kind of just floating around like a merchant marine dude. And a lot of his friends in the neighborhood are being drafted to Vietnam. So he decided, with all the protesting going around, he wants to get a whole bunch of Pabst Blue Ribbon beers and just go on like a big old duffel bag beer run, take a ship over to Vietnam and kind of like see his buddies out there and share some beers with them. And what follows is a based on a true story type of adventure throughout a legitimate live war zone. If you know anything about history and anything about the Tet Offensive, it happens during that. and there's some really great supporting actors in there. Russell Crowe's even in there too, and a lot of his scenes are really, really strong, really powerful between him and Zac Efron. And Zac Efron, with a lot of charm and charisma, carries a lot of the film too. He does great, so it's worth your time and attention, and fun little bit. And stay to the end of the not the very end of the credits, but once the credits start rolling, keep watching, because then you'll see the actual like pictures and memoir pictures of the
Actual events.
actual events of the guy who went
Cool.
around and did that.
I like when they do that.
And it's funny because the guy who directed Green Book directed this movie, so Peter Farrelly,
Okay.
Nice.
of Dumb and Dumber fame, if anybody wants to go way, way back. But yeah, that's my recently watched.
Something about Mary.
Something About Mary as well. Yep. Definitely recommend it if you ever get the time.
Nice.
Yep.
Put them on your watch list.
Cue them up. Sorry, I was trying to come up with something really cool, but Anthony kind of just took it. Thanks. So moving on to putting on cues and watch lists. Right immediately, let's get right into it. We had 8 episodes
Yep.
of Rings of Power, so it's finally
8
debuted.
hours.
No, it's like
Eight and
close
a
to
half,
9.
something like that.
No, it's like each episode is like an hour
Hour
5,
10.
hour 10.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's say at least 9-ish hours. But overall, yeah, we got to see what Amazon dumped a whole lot of money into the IP for. So overall, before we get to specifics, what did you guys think?
It was really good.
You liked it. All
I
right,
really liked
good,
it.
good. Yeah.
It was, I'm like a lot of shows, slow burn the first couple episodes, and it starts building up a little bit more. Payoff was for this season was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. Even
Had
if some
some,
stuff was telegraphed, but even if things were telegraphed, I liked the fact that you still felt for the characters kind of going through the ride of
Yeah.
it all. To get to where they were initially. At first, I was kind of like seeing a younger Galadriel just kind of get really hands-on stuff, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" But it all starts to make sense towards the very end, like especially the last episode. Even though from someone else, I forgot who, but I can't take credit for this statement, but I can definitely agree with it that these 8 episodes overall felt like an extremely well put together, drawn out pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, as good. But that I'm not saying that as like a bad thing. I'm just saying it's like it was almost like a proof of concept because they're setting up everything.
Yeah.
You're setting up, the return of Sauron. You're setting up the creation of why the rings have to come out. You're setting up the initial conflict. But like the everlasting conflict of the dwarves and elves that goes on into the Third Age. You're setting up the fall of Numenor and how a lot of those the men from the west end up colonizing and settling in what's now Gondor and all that stuff. And you have all these lingering kind of allusions and direct references to things that happen in what's called the War of Wrath. I think that was at the end of the First Age. And like you get like cool little hints of like, oh look, Elrond had a brother, and his brother went out and founded Numenor. And again, there are a lot of really deep lore stuff. So hopefully, like the casual people who are watching it just see it and be like, ooh, that's nice. But also, this is really pretty, which helped it out a lot. When some dialogue was kind of like expositionary, you could still see stuff that it's very beautifully well rendered or well shot, and you think to yourself, okay, great. At least I'm visually entertained.
Yeah, it felt very like movie quality production.
Well,
let me
sure.
let me pause really quick.
Yeah.
Just in case we are spoiling the first season of Rings of
Oh
Power.
yeah, we should.
oops.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah. So don't
So-
pop the popcorn if you haven't seen all the episodes because we going in. So yeah, I'm glad
Yeah.
we haven't name dropped anything
Yeah,
or
we're not holding
said
back.
stuff
so.
going on like that episode 6 momentous cataclysmic event.
So if you haven't seen it, please go watch it before you listen to this, unless you don't
Yeah.
mind getting spoiled.
Yeah, pause.
Yeah.
Or
finish
maybe
it.
wait until we all go over our overall thoughts, and then we'll go into the.
Right.
Yeah.
spoilers.
So
Yeah,
despite
'cause-
me, exactly. If we getting it before we get into spoilers, just we'll get the overall thoughts once we like. All right, it's spoiler time. That's where you can pause and devote 9 hours of your time to
And
watch
then
the
come
show,
back.
and then come back and see if see what you think too. But with me saying that it's a very long, expensive, and drawn out pilot, I still think overall though it was good. Like I was
Yeah.
thoroughly entertained. Like I liked the characters, I liked the settings, I like all the cool setup that's going on, and it's shot really well. For the dialogue, for the most part's good. Some stuff is a little too expositionary, or something it's too like almost like, hey, that's obvious, but you could have said that in a different way. But it's carried by the grandioseness of high fantasy and the all the good Tolkien stuff going on.
So, Zach, what grade would you give it as a first season?
Okay, like great, like number, letters,
Letters.
Whatever you want.
Or
Numbers,
actually, do
yeah,
whatever.
1 through 10. Do 1 through 10 or
All right.
10 A.
Let's confuse everybody and give different letters and number scores. Why not?
10 D minus.
So I
Hot D minus.
Ooh boy.
all right, I'm gonna do a number scale. From 1 to 10. I want to give it I think a solid 8.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
Okay.
I do kind of agree with what you were saying from wherever you heard it from. I feel like for a show like this, because there's so much to this world, not just from the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings books, but also all the other books that Tolkien had written.
Finished Tales, Silmarillion. Trust me, it's a lot.
That they did need to spend pretty much this entire season setting up these certain things, which is fine. I mean, we're gonna get a few more seasons of where they really get into the nitty gritty stuff.
Boy, I'd hope so. Yeah, because as we'll get into, there's a couple of hanging threads that need to get connected. Anyway, Danny, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think between the four of us, I am the one least knowledgeable or really into the Lord of the Rings.
And that's cool because now we get a
world.
fresh, non-spoiled take on stuff.
Yeah,
I like that.
So just so you guys know, I haven't seen any of the Hobbit movies.
Oh, wow.
I've only seen the original trilogy.
I recommend reading the book first.
Extended?
Only
Theatrical?
you should
theatrical.
only
Oh.
watch.
That's fair.
You should
Okay,
only
okay.
watch.
Peter Jackson
Yeah,
says
extended.
the real version of Return of the King should be the theatrical version.
So I've only seen
Nah.
the theatrical.
He said that.
What?
I remember him saying like,
disagree.
Only
I
the
disagree.
you
4-hour
disagree with the
version.
guy who made it. All right,
I disagree. I would rather watch the 4-hour version, the 4.5-hour version, whatever it is, than the 2 or 3 hour one that we
I think the final time for Return of the King was like 4 hours, right?
Cool.
Before
It's basically like
But
390,
director's extended cut.
358
director's
or
cut's
something.
like 4.5, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like 4.5. I think the theatrical might have been like 3 hours.
No, it's like
It was
3.5.
definitely longer than 3 hours.
Fact check. All right,
Anyways, while we
But yeah.
fact check, Danny, continue.
Well,
3 hours and 21 minutes. So
Okay.
4 hours for the extended.
Okay, there we go.
that's a long time.
And
It is-
I only know the extended cut. I've never seen the theatrical cut.
Ooh.
That's weird.
That's, yeah,
Because
Okay.
I watched it after
That
like,
is legitimately weird.
I only watched the movies a few years ago.
because you didn't see him in theaters.
And yeah, I was 3,
So-
4, and 5 when they came out.
I
Should have
saw.
gone to the theater. He would have freaked out.
So I saw the Return of the King in theaters.
Good for you.
And then maybe like last year I saw the three of them again, just to recap on it.
Good.
Eventually I'm gonna watch with Zach the extended editions because he swears
Yeah.
by them.
Yeah, they're good.
Fellowship's great. Extended.
yeah.
And Two Towers.
But in terms of going into this show, not knowing any of that, or not knowing anything about the Hobbit, or just really knowing the lore of the Lord of the Rings, I enjoyed the Rings of Power.
Cool.
I won't say it's the best or like my favorite, but I definitely enjoyed the second half a lot more than the first half. So let's say episodes 5 through 8.
That's fair because
Mhm.
they're all set up.
I know it's a lot of setup and world building, but it was easy to follow along, at least for me. I feel. I did like that they brought in like a mystery. You're trying to
Several.
this whole time. Yeah, you're trying to figure out
A
who's
few,
who.
Yeah,
a few.
you get
These-
several.
So that I feel like without that, I don't know if people would have stayed on, but that definitely brought in like a made you want to keep watching to try to figure out. I'll say in terms of score, I'm gonna go IGN on this and give it a 7.
All right.
And
Yeah.
the IGN 7. Okay.
But
Soft 7?
Soft 7.
Hard
just
7?
straight down the middle 7.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm excited for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
If it does what it did well in season 1, and obviously, continues the story and takes us where we need to go, I'm on board for season 2.
Cool.
All right. Right on.
And
I'll-
your score?
I'll do my score. So bearing everything I've said, I will give it just like Zach, a solid 8.
Nice.
I was thoroughly
Surprising.
I was thoroughly I enjoyed it. Like I never felt at any point it's like, okay, this is kind of dumb. Like there is no, this isn't spoilers yet, but there is one section where there's a certain fight sequence that, although the enemy they were fighting, one of the, like, it was basically CG, like it looked a little funky, but the choreography was pretty cool considering who was doing stuff. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, and then it hits you with the end of it. It hits you with a really like strong gut punch. That was really cool. And then things started. I think it was like the end of episode 3, if you guys remember. But I like that was just an example of things I really liked, and there were really strong character relationships that I know Danny, everybody will all get into a little bit later, but because of that, I think, and knowing and kind of being a fan of the stuff, I think it helped see some of those things in kind of it visually instead of just reading it. So yeah, like again, like I didn't feel like, oh, this was like just average. It's definitely above average, which is why we give it an 8. 9 would be too generous because again, there are some things.
I thought you would give it a 9.
No, an 8 is good. Like if this, don't get me wrong. Yeah, an 8 again is very good.
You do halves if you want.
No, because then I wouldn't say it's. Again, it's a solid 8.
Alright.
It's still in the end though. That means it's worth Amazon's money to invest it because now that they have a lot of the stuff set up, they can continue more and more. That's where I stand.
Cool.
8.
Nice.
I'm kind of in the Danny's boat. Oh, sorry about that.
That bug broke.
Yeah.
That bug broke.
Where, I probably not as into the lore as Zach and Xavier, but I have seen all the movies, all the extendeds,
All the hobbits.
all the above.
You've
I-
seen the Rankin and Bass animation?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've
You've
read
seen
The
those.
Hobbit, but really back in the day, but I barely remember when I read it. I think I only read part of the Lord of the Rings book.
When they fought the goblins.
But yeah, I mean,
The goblins or the mountain trolls?
The goblins, probably.
In the mountain?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mountain trolls, goblin in
in the
mountain.
forest.
Oh, no, no,
Yeah. Yeah, that's where Gandalf gets glamdring and all that good stuff. Anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But yeah, I'm more along the lines of Danny. I would probably give it maybe like a 6.5, because I also think that the first half was a little too slow, and I feel like if it was a standard fantasy show, not called Lord of the Rings, I probably would have stopped watching after those first couple episodes just because it was really slow. But because it has all that story and lore baked into it, and because I was interested, and I was like, all right, I'll keep watching. So
is
yeah, it definitely did start picking up at like the end of episode 4 and 5.
That's like me with Mad Men. It's like, oh, like first couple episodes, it's hard to get into, but
but it's not.
People
Mad
will
Men
tell
is
you.
not a fantasy
no,
show.
it's not. It's not fantasy. Agreed. Yeah.
It's hard
That's just-
drama, so
yeah.
you're gonna get drama the whole time. But yeah, it was pretty good. Obviously, you see the money. It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't
Shiny.
think anybody that watched the show, even if they hated it, they can't really say that it looked terrible.
Like
they-
Numenor alone looks freaking
Yeah,
great.
every time they went to a new location, they're like, "Hey, look at our money, guys, and let's just
And you're like,
look
wow,
at this nice vista."
at that mountain. That's real New Zealand mountain.
So it looked beautiful. The show looks great, but yeah, the dialogue to me, for not everybody, but for some of the characters, just like what is going on here? Where it kind of seemed like kind of like what Danny said, that it was easy to follow. I felt like it was really easy to follow, and because it seemed like the dialogue dumbed it down a little bit, at least for me. But yeah, I had some story issues overall, but yeah,
Which we'll get into very soon.
right. But I mean, so like it was enjoyable in parts, but not overall. So yeah, I'm like at the 6.5, 7 range.
All right. Wow. That's surprising to me. That 6.5. I knew that like you'd be a little critical on it with some of the gaps, but
No, it was
6.5.
one of those things where it's like I would watch an episode, be like, yeah, I think it was pretty good, and then I would think about it more and maybe like rewatch some parts, and then things would start making less sense when I would think about it more. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know, maybe I just think about it too much.
I mean, that's
But-
not necessarily a bad thing. It's just sometimes, but in something like this, you don't want to just like turn your brain off. Obviously, yeah, it's got to be important. But all right, yeah. With that, be warned. Abandon all non-spoilery wants if you do not want to be spoiled upon some of the specifics of the show. Spoilers are coming. Yep.
Winter is
Richard.
coming.
Keep them safe.
No.
Keep the
He
spoilers
doesn't know
safe.
what that is. Keep the spoilers secret. Keep them safe. With that being said, we're gonna go right on into it. Let's start with actually, Dan, I'll let you lead in some of this stuff really quick.
Yeah, for sure. So I got a little breakdown, just so we could kind of have some structure for this
Yep.
episode. But I wanted to get into some of your favorite story arc moments, or maybe who you enjoyed seeing on screen together.
Uh-huh.
So first we'll go over like the Harfoots with the stranger.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
That was cool.
Meh.
That was cool. Like Anthony didn't care too much for the surprise.
Because to me that was very obvious, and so
It was obvious that it was one or two things.
right. It
and
was
then-
obvious that it wasn't a thing. They were making it look like it was. Like they went out of their way to show you something and made it seem like
Yeah.
it was going to be that
Yeah.
the guy was going to be Sauron, and it wasn't.
And then surprise.
Even when in the first episode when he lands, if you look the whole like pit of fire that he's in, it looks like the eye.
Yeah.
So I was like, come on, guys, you're being like really obvious. So it's like because they're being that obvious, I was like, I know that's not it. Because then if he was Sauron, then you'd be like, really? It would be dumb if he was Sauron.
Actually, funny enough, now that you're talking about the eye, I loved how in that final shot of the last episode, when you see the reflection of
of
the
Mount
eye?
Doom.
you see where it's like a cat's eye for a split second,
Right on
to-
this dude's face.
right on his eye.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's the
which was
idea.
pretty cool. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's the idea. There's again, like when there, I think this show was when it was allowed to do little details, it was nice. But when they glossed over stuff, then like to Anthony's point, it could suffer.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole Stranger Harfoots,
back
it
to
was
that.
nice to see, because they are mentioned in the other texts and all that stuff, the Harfoots, and it's cool to see basically like ancestors to the hobbits, because they technically are, because they haven't gone out west to the Shire, and this is where all the nerds go whip out their Middle Earth maps and see exactly where in Eriador and all this.
I think
Whatever.
the,
I'm not
the
gonna get
Shire
into
the Shire is towards the west part
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
Middle Earth.
all
right?
the way there. So they haven't migrated over there yet, because
Yeah.
there's a whole history of like, so it was like
Yeah.
a Shire, like not a duke, but it was like there's someone who was in charge of all that stuff, and then they end up going settling, and then because hobbits technically I think lived longer than men anyhow, but not like super duper long, like Bilbo, because he cheated. He had the
Well,
ring.
yeah, Bilbo had the ring.
Yeah.
He was 111, I think.
At
is what it
least
was.
111, but then in the books, whatever, he gets to be at least 128.
Yeah.
But whatever. Point is, back to Anthony's thing of just
Mhm.
understanding, like, oh yeah, this is definitely not this, and it's the other dude. Technically speaking, because the stranger, there are times he threw out fire. The giveaway is just that, according to Tolkien, some of the wizards who had different colors, they were certain colors for a reason.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like
like a hierarchy.
he was-
Not a
and he- and
hierarchy.
he-
Wasn't a hierarchy?
Isn't he
No.
blue, right?
no,
Gandalf was not one of the blue.
no,
The blue
he's
No, he was
the gray.
Oh,
He's the gray
Or white.
because
There are two kind of unnamed blue. They have names, but
yeah, I won't
In,
go
like,
too
other
far into that
text, but
because we
yeah.
can go forever. But
Alatar. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
two blue wizards, a brown, a gray, and a white.
yeah, so originally, like his original,
That's
like I think
racist.
Elven name as a Maya is like Olerin, but that's different. He's gray because, and
Yeah.
I think I forgot where this was, because I think he in
Wait,
some of
wasn't
the
it
texts.
Mithrandir?
Mithrandir is what the people in Gondor in the Third Age call.
Yeah.
Don't let's not get it. That's
Grey
too far.
Wanderer. Yeah.
So anyway, he's gray because like normally ash is gray, and so a lot of his stuff was based off of fire, so it was more connected to like the fire of creation, like fire of the hearth, fire of warmth, and that kind of stuff. And then the Balrogs and all that stuff, they had like Morgoth's fire, like really bad, nasty, corrupted, corrosion, death. Anyway, so that's why like when he came down in fire, it was like initially like, So like again, like Anthony's point is like that's a red herring. I
And
think
then
he's thinking he's
also
Sauron.
like when they clothed him, like he was just wearing like gray clothes
Gray
like the whole
clothes.
time.
And like he started kind of like, oh, cool with nature, and he's like, he actually was giving life to trees, and it. Whenever you are like pro nature and pro the flourishing of natural life and natural order, you're a good guy.
Right, you're not really the
Mhm.
the main
I mean,
antagonist.
they tried in the last episode to kind of misdirect you with the
Yeah,
That's why I didn't like that part of the last
Yeah.
episode, because it's like, come on, guys,
yeah. they're like,
it's
"You
too
are
late by
this."
now to do the misdirect.
Yeah, but I did like what made me feel nice is the whole like I'm good. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he grabbed a staff, get wrecked, and then
That
you're
was like
and they're like
Iron Giant.
base exactly. I was like, oh, that's nice, but the whole everything with the Harfoots with Nori, and like it was nice again seeing if they're alluding strong illusions that this stranger actually becomes Gandalf, then there are a lot of again strong hints that they want to throw in. Who knows? But I liked the idea of the way the Harfoots were portrayed. They were really really cool. I liked the kind of the folkiest nature of them, and everything's in song. They're like, oh, like their whole chant of just like, we go together and no one gets left behind. Like it was nice. Like it was a cool little sense of community. Like I liked some scenes like were a little again with Anthony's like they keep trying to misdirect you. Is this guy a menace? Is he not a menace? Like yeah, that got dragged on too long, but again, I found it enjoyable.
Yeah, I was still finding myself warming up to them or to that story arc. I think I was only as invested as I was in that story arc because of the stranger, and I wanted to know
Yeah.
Right.
what was
Yeah.
going to happen with him. I wasn't
That's the idea.
I wasn't like too keen on the actual. I mean, are they hobbits? Like
No,
I don't think they've
fuck
ever
it.
mentioned
They're not
they're
hobbits.
hobbits, right?
They're
So-
Harfoots.
They're Harfoots. Yeah, they're like
They're not hobbits.
ancestors of hobbits. They're not pure like real hobbits just yet.
Okay, so
I don't want to say
I-
sounds horrible. But yeah.
yeah, I wasn't too hooked on them yet, but again, I'm still warming up to them. I'm sure next season they'll. Well, I mean, Nori now she's
Yeah.
gonna be more important.
Yeah.
Well-
Now that she's with him.
Right. It'll be better because it's just like one of them. Or
It's
two of 'em.
focusing. Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah,
multiple scenes and multiple episodes kind of doing the same thing with the whole tribe. That was my issue. That it felt like I
A
didn't
little
mind it. Like
repetitive.
on paper, I didn't mind that
Yeah.
there was the stranger with the Harfoots and that they were trying to like go
Integrate
somewhere.
him
But
and
like
integrate him into
it
the-
just seemed like every time they would go back to them, for me, that it was like almost the same thing, just like in a different looking forest until like the last episode. And I was like, wow, like, because it got to the point, kind of like what Danny said, where in maybe like episodes like 3, 4, and 5, whenever it would shift back to them, to their story, and it was just, I was kind of like bummed because like I kind of want to just like finish what the
The
other
other
story
stuff.
is going, because I feel like I've seen this already with the Harfoots.
yeah.
They go
right.
over here, something crazy happens, an animal attacks them, and then they get saved by the dude. Oh, their wagon gets messed up, and the stranger saves them. It was like the same thing 4 times at least.
It's-
So that was
yeah.
my only issue with that. Like, so I didn't
Yeah,
mind
Okay.
that there was a relationship and that there were new characters with who I kind of figured was Gandalf or someone like Gandalf. I just felt like it was a little repetitive
All right.
in a show that people complained was like really long and slow at the beginning. It's like they could have taken some of those out.
So taking some of those out, which I wish they would have done more of,
Right.
is between all the great like friendship and drama between Elrond and Durin.
Yep.
Those are actually some of my
I
favorites.
wanted more.
Right.
That and with Durin's wife, those are some of my favorite scenes in the entire
Mhm.
show.
Completely agree.
Those are so cool. That because I always loved the dwarven stuff. Like every time, you could hear Bear McCreary's score get a lot of inspiration from Howard Shore when he scored a lot of the stuff for the dwarves, like in Moria and Khazad-dûm. So you'd hear some of that in there, and I'm just like, yes, give me more of that. And then you see more dwarven culture. Like we never get a lot of that in Lord of the Rings, and even in The Hobbit. Like you don't even get you don't get much.
The
of that.
the movie is about 13 dwarves
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, dude, what the hell? So like having that more of that
for
was
the show.
great. I was like, give me more of that. And then, you have the drama between Durin and his dad, and just basically like your inheritance is, you're not worthy of this. And so it got me thinking of going back into Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh, they talk about Durin's axe in the books. It's like, that's the axe that Gimli has. Like he finds it in when they're all holed up, where they find the book which funny enough, Ori, which is one of the 13 dwarves that went to
his grave. Yeah, his
yeah, that's where he died.
tomb.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, this isn't the hideout, it's a tomb. Yeah, so all that stuff again, dwarven culture is really cool. Seeing Elrond really as the diplomat, which is what he was known for, is seeing like, it was very cool.
Yeah.
And you see some of the just kind of planting the seeds for what we get in Fellowship of the Ring. And it's nice to see that in the back times, like yeah, like dwarves and elves were friends, and then of course we get that with Gimli and Legolas later. So
Yeah, that was
more of that,
definitely-
please.
Definitely a strong aspect to the show.
Yeah, the guy who played Durin's dad, he was Darlene's husband in Ozark, and Delos in Westworld. So he just had
Oh.
really great makeup on.
Yeah.
But he's also Scottish, so like you can have some of the, or he can play a really good Scottish accent. So he's like you could hear the just the tones and all that stuff. So it was just dope. I don't know. I just loved all the dwarf stuff, man. Like
I like
give me more of that.
the conflicting,
Yeah, like what,
thoughts that Durin had between Elrond, which he considers like his brother, although he's angry.
yeah. Well, because yeah, he don't
yeah,
show
'cause
up, dude.
yeah.
It's like 20 years. Come back.
And then you have his dad, which is the king, and
Not sacrificing dwarven lives for elven lives, and gives him at least as a token is like that piece of mithril, which later on the dwarves will then open that up and make a crap ton of stuff out of mithril, which then, as we saw, will open up something else, which I thought was a good illusion. But again,
Tease.
that's later on. Yeah, it's a small tease, but later on, that's just later.
And then also with like that whole story arc, of course, if you've ever read or watched like Hobbit, the dwarves are Durin's folk.
Yep.
So that's that lineage of
Yeah.
Durin the
The
fourth
long
is
beards.
this one.
Yeah.
This is
dope.
Durin the fourth, and then you have like I think there were like five more Durins over the next
Something
thousands
like
of
three
years.
more, three or four, I think
Something,
it's
yeah.
like three or more, Durins.
yeah.
And then Morio's lost. Anyway, so yeah,
Jeez.
those stuff's are really that stuff's really cool.
Don't tease me, bro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I can go too long, but we have attention spans to deal with. Anyway, so going into the main drama of all this stuff is kind of these interwoven relationships going through. We had we got introduced to Arondir, which is a cool like elf in the Southlands that's kind of patrolling and overseeing some of this stuff, and his relationship with the southern men and women, specifically Bronwyn, which is really cool to kind of see that. We always see like man and elf, which happens also in Silmarillion, but also now there's this, the reverses too. It's just like an elven man and a human woman, and they kind of help each other out to kind of get the survivors out of this whole like cataclysm that happens in the Southlands, which, as we find out when Galadriel's over in Numenor, is freaking ends up being Mordor. That was dope. Like the moment I saw that map, I was like, oh, they're looking at it wrong. Oh no. Like like I get me seeing all this stuff like, oh, like I did the Leo DiCaprio thing. I was like just doing like there it is. Like I know he did the thing. Like that's going to happen. So it was really cool to see like it alluding to that. The way it actually happened was more just like now with other things that we found out is like, oh, that makes sense because there was a switcheroo or probably something later on there. But I know there was. It just wasn't. It was implied. It wasn't explicitly shown. But you could really tell, like when the guy who's this dark elf, like Adar, was running away. You're like, he doesn't have the real thing. Like you can tell the real thing. And then Halbrand wasn't even like in on it, which we'll talk about in a second. But
It was like,
Adar's asking is like, who are you? That man's just like, I'm not telling, for a good reason.
so there was like 3 people that like touched it and saw it and didn't realize that it wasn't a heavy sword.
No, or like
Half
a
a
heavy
handle.
Yeah.
half a handle key or something like that. Yeah, it was just whatever. So yeah, Arondir had some, like I mentioned in episode 3 when they all got captured and they're digging holes and they're felling trees. It was good to see again the elven culture, how they respect trees, that the trees are sacred to them, and the orcs are like, cut it down or else. So it was good seeing some of those little things of conflict. They have a cool fight sequence between everybody, and like, all right, cool, we're getting out.
That was when he got captured, right?
That was after he got captured,
Mhm.
yeah. And then
They tried to do a whole like rally.
a rally and escape,
beat 'em
and then
up.
they realized, oh, we're not just in some ditch. This is the entire like part of the forest that's now gone. And then the orcs were just like, ha, got you. Like they let them do that all for nothing because they knew they were still in control the whole time. So it was like a cool little mind game seeing played out, and that was like the one I think that and another like highlight of that episode 3, especially like Anthony saying like, yeah, it's a slow burn in the beginning, but that's because
No, yeah, that part was cool.
that part was cool. Yeah, like again, I think little things helped lift up the show. As
Like
a
the
whole.
water creature part in the second episode, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. If a bit unexpected. I didn't know sea creatures like that others existed, but
They do now.
they do now. Yes.
I mean, Deer had probably one of the most, or probably some
Didn't
of
he
the
catch
best.
an arrow mid flight and
Yeah.
then throw it back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was godlike.
Yeah,
he had like some of the
he's
best fight
definitely a good
sequences.
Legolas replacement. 'Cause
Yeah.
they needed someone to be a badass. So
Yep.
He was
But
definitely
he was
a
cool.
badass.
at the beginning, I was like, I don't know about this guy, and then after like episode 3, I was like, all right.
Yeah, 3 or 4, and he
It's
like
cool.
escapes.
And
like,
then-
oh, word.
And then episode 6, like, come on.
Woo, that was the culmination of everything. So like talking about you have Elendil, and then you have the Queen Regent of Numenor. Again, Galadriel getting there because she decided, no, it's not my time to go back to the Undying Lands. I
Yeah.
still have business to finish. And that's when she meets up with Halbrand, who's like, I'm trying to go away too. And there's this whole like, who are you? Is like, I'm just trying to get away. And all that stuff, all that culminates between, Galadriel, Halbrand, the Queen, Elendil, his son Isildur. Obviously, we know who that is. They all decide, yeah, we're going to get a group of people over. And that's it. Like, we're going to go mount a campaign in the Southlands, all to basically get mind gamed and played. And it all ended up in episode 6. Yeah, I know Danny was really hyped for this.
Episode 6 was probably the best, at least for me, the best thing in the whole show. And obviously, I didn't know that was going to be Mordor, or like you said that you knew with the map, like where that was.
Yeah,
where the
Galadriel was like, oh, that's
Southlands
the
were.
Southlands. And you
Yeah.
see the mountains around it. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that sucks.
Like, I
'cause
didn't catch
I know
any of
exactly
that.
what's gonna happen.
That was a little detail that I didn't notice,
I'm a nerd.
because
Sorry.
I mean, I don't know if it was because I wasn't maybe like entirely paying attention to certain parts of the show or certain episodes, but that was a cool like way that
Well,
Mordor was born.
Yeah,
Right.
well-
like I noticed it. I just didn't think that they were gonna like create it in that episode. Like I didn't know it was gonna happen.
Yeah, because
that early. So.
because one of the things that I didn't really know, before watching the show, was how Mordor became what I thought Mordor was always there.
No, it was never like a land of
You have-
ash. Or
And
anything like
I
that.
thought
Yeah.
it was going to be something where it was going
Terraformed.
to take time,
like
or
2
maybe like
seasons or something. Like that.
yeah.
You have
Nah,
to say it
just-
right though. Mordor.
Mordor.
That's true. In Elvish, there's a lot of rolling R's, which is really cool.
Well, in a lot of this
Yeah.
A lot of the
or a lot of the world.
Well, because it's Elvish. It's in I forget the in Quenya. So
Well,
like a
I
lot
mean,
of that.
even
In
like
Kenya, that's
even
a
like
lot
the
of that.
humans, like it's like Aragorn or
Well,
Galadriel.
yeah, because they're yeah. All right. Nerd
Moving
detail.
on.
No, yeah. Nerd detail. No, because
I don't
first I
know.
want to talk about. We mentioned already like how great Numenor looked, because it's supposed to be like an island nation of
Yeah.
that men who were fought with the Valar. They were basically like granted like a gift of like, yeah, you guys can live here now and be prosperous. You're men, so you can't live forever, but we're gonna give you really long life. And the cool thing is that when Galadriel was with Elendil, she saw a mural of Elros, and they're like, yeah, like Elros, like this was the founder of Numenor. He's the first king, and she's like, oh, that guy. He's like, oh, like she's like, he looks familiar, but I'm more acquainted with his brother. It's because Elrond and Elros were brothers.
Yeah.
So like, I think yeah,
they were
like,
both half.
they're both
human,
half human, half elf. One decided to be be human. One decided to be elf.
Yeah.
So anyway, like that's a whole, and then they created their whole seafaring culture, but they're also horsemen at the same time, which is again really cool. Like there's allusions to Atlantis or whatever, but architecture, the sets were really sharp for that. I don't know, like if that was filmed like near bodies of water or anything. Like I know Anthony has a good idea, like eye for those things, but those sets were legit.
They look good, but it after I think like by episode 5, every time they would show people on a ship, it seemed like it was the same type of like zoom in into like where they're standing on the ship. So they probably had like an actual ship, but I don't know. I obviously
Yeah,
like,
on
the
a
water.
blue screen
Yeah.
set
Yeah,
or
it's probably on a
something.
blue screen set, but so I mean
Okay.
it looked nice.
Still
but,
looked great.
Yeah, it still
still
looked
look great. And then yeah, like we all know, I guess the people who've seen the movies or anything know that's like, oh yeah, Elendil and Isildur, they're important, but we get the Queen Regent and this other guy, Ar-Pharazôn, who is also, if you know the books and the lore, is very important. But then with everything going on between Galadriel bringing Halbrand back, like with us astute people like Anthony, like realizing and figuring out, we kind of understand what this guy is. It's
like a while ago.
yeah, a while ago. It still played pretty well that, if someone's going to be monikered the Great Deceiver, like to the characters, I think he did a good job deceiving everybody. Like he's even deceiving Adar, the guy who's marshaling all the orcs against everyone else. He's deceived all the people, everybody in charge in Numenor. He's deceived the elves. He
claims to be the king of the Southland.
Yeah, well, someone called him.
Or someone,
that.
someone else, but he just kind of
went with it.
I wore a sigil, and he legitimately said, "I got it off a dead man." So like the best lies are based in truth.
Half truth.
Yeah, best lies are half.
I mean, he even says it to Galadriel, where he was
I've
like,
done bad things.
I've done bad. I told you the truth, and you accepted it. Like you were okay. I told you everything.
Yeah, and she's like, mind games, and he's like, I mean, yeah, like that's my jam, everybody. And so, again, like the reveal, though obvious, I think was still done well.
Yeah.
The only downside is to be based off of all that. Like he did teach him, like, oh, let's use alloys to create stuff. Like he basically was like, come on, guys, you can make these rings. It'll be fun. Like it'll be fine without them. Now these guys haven't realized why. Like, oh, we got to do these to enhance our power. But he knows that, like, oh, I'm gonna make one of myself. That's gonna then
Even more.
have all the power.
That was one of the few things of the last episode I didn't like, is that I felt like
they rushed that.
They
right?
rushed the reveal and the, hey, alloys, make rings, hooray, in like the last 15 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, or 10, really. It was like last 10.
I felt like these two things were probably the most important part of the season, and they crammed it in. It's like, you spent all this time and all this other stuff, and then like that's what you rush on. Is kind of weird to me.
Yeah, you're rushing on making Rings of Power, and when that's the name of the show.
Right.
I mean, the first 8 episodes... the first 7 episodes, you get nothing about a ring.
Right.
And now we're like, oh, we can't make crowns. Let's make rings.
The pacing
she wears it in her middle ring.
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to really push that in there before his reveal of...
But now makes sense as to why you say it's a long pilot.
Yeah.
One big pilot. Because now they could go into the Rings of Power.
Yep.
Now they could go into Sauron and... the villain,
and then we just need 16 more rings somehow.
Yeah,
plus 1.
They essentially spent
that'll happen. Yeah,
the same length as the trilogy, the first trilogy. In this
just
one
making
season.
rings. Yeah, and think about it.
Crazy.
Yeah, because you have to then, and at the end of the show, they play the song, or they sing the song of which, or the poem
song.
of the 7 of the 3 rings for the elves, mighty and wise and long, 7 for the dwarf lords, 9 for men who are doomed to die, and then 1 ring to rule them all.
But it was sung to the theme song, right?
I think so.
The theme song of the show.
I have to re-listen to it again.
I think it was.
I'd be dope if it was, because Howard Shore is cool like that. He would do that. So in the end, like I just production values we've already mentioned is really great. We know the queen now is blind again. Because of the ash or the building that was falling on her, and like the ash was there. So she's blind, and Elendil's kind of mad. He's like, I'm gonna go back and just bring all the force of Numenor because of my son, which then brings me to the point is homie's still alive.
Yeah, I don't know
where the hell is he.
I don't know why they bothered doing this like fake reveal when anybody who's seen the
not
movies...
even a fake reveal. It's just like a fake like that's the only thing like my one knock on the movie is like, you're gonna like dangle this hanging plot thread of where's Isildur when it's like, homie, he's fine.
It's the same thing they did in Kenobi when they were showing
with Luke
in the last episode. Yeah, the fight scene, and they intercut it with, oh, baby Luke is in trouble. It's like, nothing's gonna happen to him, and they're intercutting this stupid scene with the coolest scene of the show.
The coolest fight scene we ever wanted to see.
So yeah, I don't know why they're doing a whole fake out of, oh, Isildur is missing. I wonder where he is.
I think that's
and they showed him alive too.
That's
he
more
just
for
like ran away.
People that that don't know the story, that have just
they can just read a book. They can just watch watch the movie.
Okay, no, you can watch the first 10 minutes of the first movie.
How many people?
I was there 3,000 years ago.
How many people are actually going to? Okay, well, I mean, aside from reading a book, but I'm
the
sure
first
people
movie.
are gonna wait until maybe now.
Or they'll
this
go,
first season's
hey,
over.
I need the fix. I don't have my Lord of the Rings fix.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there's 3 awesome movies that were made. Okay, in 2001 to 2003. Yeah, I'm gonna watch them now. Oh, is Sildur that guy? Oh, hey, that's Elrond. He looks like the guy from The Matrix. Whatever. And then they'll go on. Yeah,
Mr.
then also-
Anders.
and then Galadriel's brother.
Mr. Elisar.
That was cool.
Yeah, Galadriel overall, like it's cool. Again, although rushed,
She got better.
she got better in the end because of her impulsive ways, and obviously off of revenge and whatnot. Was was definitely totally like, I guess it was earned in the end.
So
A
is the-
little bumpy, but still earned.
Is the worst character Theo? Is that the kid's name? Brownwind's son. He has to be the worst character.
Him being the worst. Okay, like worst in terms of like worst written, or we like hey,
Both,
like
like,
terrible people.
The
No, that
terrible
old-
person.
That old guy
the-
from the
his-
Southlands is
This
an
kid's
asshole.
acting wasn't good. His writing was terrible. Like I felt bad for him because they gave him bad writing, and it was just like his haircut. I don't know the whole character.
Yeah.
All of it.
Even when the reveal that he opened he opened and he's like, it's the axe. He doesn't tell anybody. He just looks at it. It's like, man, you didn't even like run over and be like, it's an axe.
It's
an
a
axe.
trap. Yeah, it's a trap. Yeah, but
I
whatever.
figured
That kid
he
was
would figure it
traumatized.
out.
I figured also he was traumatized because he's like, oh, this is all my fault and everything
Yeah,
else. So
idiot.
see,
He's the worst. He's the
Terrible.
worst.
You see, it was his fault.
I think it's
Oh, Brownwind.
like
Be a better mother.
as I remember when they brought out Adar, I was like, oh, this guy must be legit. And it's like, oh, you're like the cool thing about episode 6.
Mhm.
Yeah, was it 6?
That was the volcano.
Because Mount Doom blew up at the end of episode 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when she's interrogating Adar, they do the whole debate of like, where are orcs just fallen or like twisted elves or anything else? Anyway, they had a really cool debate, and like it's like kind of a what the show was going with in terms of the lore, but that whole thing was cool. But understanding more of like where Adar's coming from, I was like, oh, does he actually serve Sauron? Like, can he
Well,
tell that?
killed him apparently?
Yeah, it's like I killed Sauron. I was like, okay, buddy. And then Halbrand's there. That's like,
He was cool though.
shut up.
He was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Like, I
It'll be
wanted
cool
more
to see
of him.
them. I'm sure we'll see them kind of.
Oh yeah,
reconnect.
Yeah.
homies will show up. He's like, it was you the whole time. And he's like, yeah, didn't you pay attention? So anyway, again, great deceiver. So overall, like, well, the only thing is like some of my like little things, I guess it's knowing stuff. I was like, when is Galadriel gonna meet her husband? Who is that guy from one of the Bourne movies and the bad guy from Triple X? But I'm like, when does Celeborn show up? But anyway, just little things in there.
Why did they destroy the fort that they were in to hide out in like a little barn in that episode?
Because they drew.
I know it was
all
a
of-
mind game.
No, but they you saw how many orcs they drew up in there just to mess them
Right,
up.
because they like left it open. But like if they just left it closed, weren't they in a more fortified area?
What the fort? No,
The like fort they're in.
they
but
didn't
then,
have. It's
But
so
then they went into like
they couldn't.
shacks.
Yeah, because they had to use the fort as a diversion to implode it on everybody because they don't have enough resources for a siege. Like they don't have like, hey, let's man the walls that do all this stuff that they weren't gonna last.
Even with how many they
But why
probably
didn't
killed.
they reverse it? Why didn't they like stay in the shacks at first, bring them all there,
The
and then
sh-
light
the
it on
shacks-
fire,
The
and
shacks,
then like walk to the fort?
no, that wouldn't have worked.
I
Because
think it was the other way. Like
the way
the-
geographically, it's the other way works.
I don't know. It just seemed like a weird plan.
You got read a map. I don't know. Like,
No, not map wise. I'm just saying like fort versus
they
like,
figured. So they figured they could get.
farmhouse.
They figured they can get a lot of them, which they did. But then they can try to get more, and then that's
And-
why when the
and then
initial,
they got
yeah, we
mind
did
game.
it.
They got mind
They
game.
did it. Oh wait, that was only the expeditionary force because
Mhm.
hey, hope and men and all that stuff. But yeah, I think
Watch Rings of Power.
yeah. In the end though, like smaller Easter eggs. I don't know. I think if Danny might have pointed some stuff out. I mean, I saw the little things like there were obvious things like talking about Elros. You had the Queen's vision of Numenor being taken by
giant
by the
wave.
water. Yeah. I didn't necessarily like how just basically clouds open and then you're in the west. I don't know, like that image just seemed very kind of weird to me, but sure, why not? Small little, again, the smaller details showing you that Halbrand is really Sauron. Just the fact that, and then homie got into a street fight and like was malicious, so that tells you he's somebody else. So
Yeah.
He,
He
like
definitely
smashed
knew.
a guy's face in the
Yeah,
wall.
then broke his arm. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got this, and I'm gonna break it.
Yeah.
Get wrecked.
But yeah, overall, I mean, even for me and Anthony that weren't too into Lord of the Rings, we still enjoyed it. Excited for the second season.
Inconsistencies, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think season 2
Got
will definitely be
potential.
better. More dwarf stuff, please.
The bad thing is that they haven't started yet, and they said they were going to be a couple years away from.
Ow.
well, I think they
finishing
just
it.
started filming or started production
For
on
season
Right.
2.
Okay, good.
So-
But it might take at least 2 years to come through.
Yeah.
Because, hey, it's hell expensive. Whatever. I guess there's a new season of Jack Ryan coming out. Yay. Thanks, Amazon. Again, so
Prime it.
this is all Prime. So Prime it up. Prime also has the theatrical releases of Lord of the Rings, as well as HBO Max, because they were New Line Cinema. I don't know if
Yeah.
that has
Well,
anything to
HBO
say-
Max also has the extended cuts for
Ooh.
They do.
both series.
But only 1080p, right?
Unfortunately.
Whack. All right. But
All
I
right,
might rewatch Fellowship in the extended cut because I like that one.
Well, I'm going to hang out with Danny. We're going to watch The Hobbit in 4K because I bought them off iTunes.
Oh.
So I'm going to bring my Apple TV
Okay.
over and we're going to watch it.
Nice.
Okay.
Doesn't he have an? Oh no, wait. You'd have to log in.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Point
it's
is,
too complicated.
all right, guys. Yeah. So again, thank you for tuning in. I thoroughly enjoyed the Rings of Power.
Me too.
Despite some faults here. Again, high fantasy is in, guys. You got this and that hot D going on. So. Thank you so much for tuning in. Share your thoughts with us once this goes live. We'd love to hear what you guys thought of it, what you guys are hoping to see. I mean, I didn't even get to mention stuff like, Gil-galad, High King of the Elves, which is really cool to see. Celebrimbor has the legendary hammer. And he's the one that's forging rings because he's kind of the dude. So who knows, man? We get more of that. Share some of your thoughts. We look forward to that. And till then, keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Later.
I bid you all a very fond farewell.
Watch Hot D.
Don't forget to just always follow your nose.